Hello and a very warm welcome to another edition of World Panorama. Like always, get ready to catch up on the biggest international news of the week. I'm Sana Khan. Before we get you detailed reports, here's a look at the top stories this week. Will the Crimean referendum help shape the crisis in Ukraine? West readies sanctions against Russia. World Panorama gets you an insight into the deepening crisis. Confusion still remains on the missing Malaysian airliner. Search expands to the Indian Ocean. And memories of Japan's Fukushima disaster still linger on 3 years after. Nuclear plant still fragile. Our top story. With little hope of halting a vote to separate a strategic Ukraine peninsula from the rest of the country, the West is ready to impose harsh sanctions on Russia for what US officials described as Moscow's insistence in undermining the new upstart government in Kyiv and fueling tensions among those who oppose it. Alarm was raised in recent days by a large mobilization of Russian forces on the eastern borders of Ukraine, with an estimated 20,000 troops already inside southern Crimea, as well as growing intimidation by pro-Kremlin militias and mobs. Now, where's Ukraine headed? Is there more of a tilt towards the West or Russia? To discuss this, I welcome Charanjit Singh. He is a professor at the Center of Russian Studies at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me on the show. Before I start talking to him about the crisis, here's a look at this latest report.
Washington warned Russia on Thursday it was preparing a very serious response together with Europe to a breakaway vote in Ukraine's Crimea that has sparked the most explosive East-West standoff since the Cold War.
Well, we've all made clear to Foreign Minister Lavrov that in the absence of progress, the stage is set for further steps by the European Union, by the United States, probably by other countries in the world, that we do look to Russia to enter a process of negotiation and to stop the steady escalation of this situation.
US Secretary of State John Kerry flew to London on Friday to meet with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in a last-minute bid to stave off a new chapter in the East-West crisis over Ukraine. Pro-Russia activists and supporters of Ukrainian unity clashed in the worst violence that the eastern city of Donetsk has witnessed. With the referendum looming, many people in eastern Ukraine expect that their land will also be annexed if Crimea becomes part of Russia.
Да какая? Будем выходить и дальше на митинги. А что делать? Просто я считаю во всем виноватой милицию. У нас говорили, якобы будет там какая-то иллюстрация, реформа, да. Но ее пока нет. Милиция это такая же банда, как и, собственно, те, кто на нас нападал. Они едят из одной руки.
Я хочу федерацию.
О чем референдум?
Как это о чем? Я хочу федерацию. Нет, зачем? В составе Украины.
Вокзал, Москва.
Да правда.
Да.
Вы мне будете рассказывать, что мне нужно делать.
Да.
Это провокаторы вот такие, как вы. Вот вчера приезжали.
Ukraine's Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk, while addressing the United Nations Security Council, appealed for the world body's help.
We are wondering what is the final destination of Russian military. Is it Crimea? Is it Kyiv? Is it another cities that were 60 years ago? What we ask for an international support to stop this crisis, which goes far beyond Ukrainian borders. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We are at a critical moment, as you heard from all council members. The way forward is clear. Russian forces must return to their bases. International human rights monitors must be allowed into Crimea. And all countries must respect Ukraine's territorial integrity. It is not too late, but we are running out of time. Thank you.
Russia launched its own military maneuvers at its neighbor's doorstep and also dispatched fighter jets to Belarus in a show of military muscle. The suddenly tangible danger of war breaking out on the EU's eastern border prompted German Chancellor to tell Vladimir Putin his country faced long-term political and economic damage unless he showed an immediate willingness to compromise. US President Barack Obama also threw his full weight behind Ukraine's new pro-European leaders in their Cold War-style standoff with the Kremlin.
All right, Professor Singh, now Ukraine braces for a crucial vote on Saturday. It's a highly charged breakaway vote, and we all kind of know that what side the majority of the vote will be. What's your understanding of what happens on Saturday and the events that will follow after that?
You see, the authorities who are in control of the Crimean Peninsula have clearly stated, Sergei Aksyonov, the acting prime minister there, has stated yesterday, for instance, that everything is under control. They have up to 60,000 volunteers, self-defense forces they call, a few thousand of the Ukrainian security forces, and most of the soldiers, the military people who are from the Ukrainian side have, according to them, come over to the Crimean side because most of them are Crimean nationals and they don't want to fight their brethren. Therefore, the situation is well under their control. According to their assessment, over 90% of the people are going to come out to vote, and at least 80% of them, and a total of that population, around 60%, are Russian nationals. Some are mixed Ukrainian and Russian nationality. However, they also perceive themselves as Russians. There are people who perceive themselves as Soviets. They call themselves during the census. And all of them are in favor of the Russian Federation. However, there will be some people who will be voting for staying autonomous under the Ukrainian Union with greater federal powers.
All right. What do you say about the latest efforts? Kerry has been meeting Lavrov. There are several hectic meetings going on, and the West is very critical. It's saying that we will not accept the referendum that will take place in Crimea. What will happen once the referendum takes place? All these threats by the West, will they actually go on and implement all these sanctions that they're talking about and the harsh action that is being talked about?
See, there are several facets to it. First move was from the side of the West, that there was clear support for the protesters in Kiev, in Euromaidan, and they succeeded in sending Yanukovych away even after the 21st February agreement, which was mediated by Russia. Russia was an observer, Poland, Germany and France. Their people were present. However, that was junked immediately after that. Now, Ukraine is the backyard of Russia, unlike all the other Eastern Bloc countries which had come to Russia in the aftermath of the Second World War, and of course Western Ukraine also. It got just before the war started. It was what was division of the trophies between Hitler and Stalin. However, as regards the eastern part and Crimea, they have been Russian and their mentality is Russian, and for Russia it's a very crucial area. The southern and the eastern parts of Ukraine are heavily industrialized and they have a lot of cooperation with the Russian companies, because during the Soviet times there was no division. One part would be manufactured in at one plant and another at another plant. So, and then they would come together to make a single unit, manufacturing unit. Therefore, for Russia it is vital, and strategically also it is, geopolitically it is vital for Russia. Therefore, for Russia to answer back was but natural. I think Henry Kissinger, the way he has been advising the American and the Western government, seems to be the sanest voice, that you should not take Russia and their aspirations and their understanding of the situation very lightly.
Right.
So, keeping that in mind, trying to create a sphere of influence over all of Ukraine is not something which Russia would have taken lying down.
Absolutely, not a very good idea as well. But talking some very crucial points that you raised, I'd also like to bring the economic part of Ukraine in focus right now, because the economy needs attention. Do you think this will be better in a way, the voting, the referendum to take place? Will it help the Ukrainian economy, so to speak, come out from the crisis?
I feel that this referendum is just a part of the maneuvering between the West and the East, and Russia has refused to enter into negotiations before the referendum is over, because Putin has said we will respect the will of the masses in Crimea. However, what exactly is going to transpire after the referendum is over, my feeling is that it will be just another ace up the sleeve of Russia for negotiating with the West. And the sanctions that you talk of are perhaps not so easy to implement, because I think they will be, if something comes, it will be very dilute.
Okay.
And Russia also may not be in a hurry. They are already controlling Crimea. And they will keep on controlling it. I think they may stop short of annexing it formally, although they have the approval of their upper house to do that. But perhaps they will wait for the events to develop further and get more negotiating power in their hands. This is my feeling.
So the coming few days are going to be very critical, very decisive. We've been seeing that standoff that started in November, come so far. Thanks so much, Professor. It was a pleasure having you on the show and your thoughts that you shared with our viewers this week. With that, we're taking a very short break. Other world news is coming up next. Also, the latest on the missing Malaysian Airlines plane. Several countries join in the search operation. Still no signs. Thanks for staying with us. Now, in one of the most baffling mysteries of modern aviation, there's still no trace of the missing Malaysian flight or any signs of its wreckage. The United States, which has sent ships and planes to join the search operation, said it may soon be extended to the Indian Ocean.
After a week of search operations having borne no fruit, there might be a fresh glimmer of hope for the anxious families of passengers aboard the Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. Officials close to the investigation now say that new information suggests that satellites picked up faint electronic pulses from the aircraft after it went missing, even though there was no information about where it was headed. After claims emerged that the plane may have flown for longer than investigators earlier thought, the United States has sent surveillance teams to the Indian Ocean to help search for the missing flight.
It's my understanding that based on some new information that's not necessarily conclusive, but new information, an additional search area may be opened in the Indian Ocean, and we are consulting with international partners about the appropriate assets to deploy. But I don't have anything more on that.
India has also joined the search operation, with the Navy, Air Force and Coast Guard pitching in. Currently, 8 vessels and 4 aircraft from China, Malaysia and the United States have joined efforts with the Vietnamese search team in the region. Another possible lead could be the seafloor event or tremors detected by Chinese researchers near the waters between Malaysia and Vietnam soon after the plane went missing.
We are actually searching that part of the geography, but the likelihood of the aircraft being there is probably very, very low.
Distraught families who have been waiting for days now accuse the Malaysian government of delaying the search and rescue efforts and of releasing conflicting information.
现在我们和时间在赛跑，如果早一天搜救范围扩大，我们的亲人生还的希望还很大。如果就这样一天天按马来西亚这种不作为的行为， 把时间整个全部耽误了。我们的亲人那简直是等以后。
Some others are starting to accept the possibility of a negative outcome. Flight MH370 vanished last Saturday with 239 people on board.
Now, on the 11th of March, Japan marked the 3rd anniversary of the devastating earthquake and tsunami that sparked a nuclear emergency. The crippled Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant remains volatile, and the complicated decommissioning process is expected to last for decades as fears persist over the health effects of leaked radiation. The triple disaster, known in Japan as 311, killed 15,800 people and left some 2,600 unaccounted for on its northeastern coast.
Japan observed a moment of silence on March 11th. It's been 3 years since the deadliest nuclear disaster swept away thousands of lives and destroyed coastal communities. Survivors bowed deeply at remembrance ceremonies in towns and cities around the disaster zone.
この大震災の記憶を決して忘れることなく子孫に伝え、防災に対する心がけを育み、安全な国土を築くことを目指して進んでいくことを期待しています。
原発事故のためにいまだふるさとに戻れない方々も数多くおられます。復興をさらに加速し、被災者の方々が一日も早く普通の生活に戻られるようにすることが天国で私たちを見守っている犠牲者の御霊に
Disaster-struck communities continue to struggle to come to terms with the loss of so many lives and property, and with many evacuees still living in temporary housing. Dressed in overalls, Fukushima city residents rallied on the streets protesting against nuclear power. An NHK survey shows 30% of Japan's population wants to see a complete end to nuclear power.
国とか福島市は今ここで生きてっても安全だよっていう言い方をしてるんですけど、やっぱどこか心配で、自分で実際に測ってみて自分の目で見て、ここで生きてっていいのかどうかを決めようって思ったので、昨日ガラスバッジを福島市の市長所行って借りてきました。
気持ちの変化はやっぱり3人の住みと言うんだけれどね、なかなか気持ちの切り替えもやっぱり一応限りとしてはね、葬儀を出したんだけれどね、なんぼ葬儀も出してもね、また遺体も上がらないから、やっぱりそこがちょっと悔しいっていうことですね。
Japan shut down its reactors in the wake of the meltdown at the Fukushima nuclear power plant following the earthquake and tsunami, and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe now is keen to return the resource-poor country back to nuclear energy.
Improvements have to be made. But as a future, I'm optimistic about the progress being made that I've seen at TEPCO, but even more by the recognition that we've seen by the country of Japan that nuclear power must remain a part of the energy mix.
The earthquake and tsunami that hit Japan soon developed into a nuclear catastrophe as one system after another at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant failed. 3 of the plant's 6 reactors suffered meltdowns, releasing deadly radiation into the sea and air. Following Fukushima, many countries put their nuclear energy plans under review. Western Europe saw 11 reactors close between 2010 and 2012, according to market research firm Euromonitor.
And much else has been unfolding around the world. Here's a quick wrap of the other international news of the week.
Maoist gunmen opened fire on an army bus in Cairo on Thursday, killing 1 soldier and wounding 3 in a rare attack on troops in the Egyptian capital. The bus, which belongs to the army's military police, was driving through the capital's Amiria district when it was targeted. Protesters battled soldiers in the streets of Caracas again on Wednesday as 3 more fatal shootings raised to 25, the death toll from a month of demonstrations against Venezuela's socialist government. Thousands of supporters and foes of President Nicolas Maduro took to the capital streets for rival rallies, marking a month since the first bloodshed in the recent unrest around the South American OPEC nation. President Bashar al-Assad visited displaced Syrians in the town of Adra on the 12th of March in a rare public appearance outside the heart of Damascus. State television said Assad inspected a shelter for people displaced by fighting in Adra, which lies about 12 miles northeast of central Damascus and was partly captured by rebels 3 months ago. Syrian soldiers backed by Lebanese Hezbollah militants took full control of farmland on the northern edge of Yabrod, the last major rebel stronghold near the Lebanese border north of Damascus, military sources said. Capturing Yabrod would help President Bashar al-Assad secure the land route, linking his Mediterranean coastal stronghold with the capital Damascus. 2 New York buildings collapsed on Wednesday in an explosion believed to be caused by a gas leak, killing 2 people, injuring more than 2 dozen, and setting off a search for more fear trapped in the debris. A blast that scattered debris onto nearby rooftops brought down neighboring 5-story building with a total of 15 apartments.
Shifting gears, time to bring you up to speed with all the sports news that you might have missed this week. Here's all the sports action.
The highly anticipated decision over the venues of the upcoming season of the Indian Premier League has finally been taken. The 7th edition of the cash-rich T20 tournament will be played in 3 legs starting on 16th April. The first leg will commence on April 16th and go on till the end of the month and include 16 matches to be played in the United Arab Emirates. The next leg from May 1st to May 12th will be conducted either in Bangladesh or India, while the final leg, which will include the important fixtures like the qualifiers, eliminators and the final on June 1st, will be held in India. LA Lakers confirmed hobbled 5-time NBA champion Kobe Bryant has been shut down for the season. Bryant has not played since December 17th when he fractured his knee during a game against Memphis after having missed the first 19 games of the 2013-14 NBA season, recovering from a torn Achilles from last April. Australian Opening champion Stanislas Wawrinka suffered his first loss of the year on March 12th and joined Andy Murray in making an early exit from the BNP Paribas Open in Indian Wells. After winning his first 13 matches in 2014, Wawrinka's streak came to a shuddering halt when he was beaten 7-6, 4-6, 6-1 by South African Kevin Anderson. His surprise loss came just hours after Murray was knocked out by Canada's Milos Raonic, one of the biggest servers in men's tennis. The doors were opened at Hampden Park in Glasgow as construction began on installing a running track ahead of the Commonwealth Games. The stadium, usually home to the Scottish national soccer team and domestic cup finals, shut last year to enable it to be converted into the host stadium for the Games, which will run from July 23rd to 4th August. The stadium will seat 44,000 during the Games, returning to its 52,000 capacity at the end. As Oscar Pistorius' defense team continued to highlight the flaws in the police investigation, the High Court in Pretoria was shocked by an accidental screening of an image of Frida Steenkamp's body. While looking for an image of Pistorius' prosthetic leg from the night of the murder, the court screens flashed images of the crime scene, showing a body that drew a few gasps from the gallery. Throughout proceedings, Colonel Johannes Vermeulen had admitted that the crime scene and the door that remains a key piece of evidence in the trial had been contaminated.
Let's get you the latest from the realm of movies and lifestyle. This is our entertainment wrap. The Hollywood movie Noah has been banned on religious grounds in Qatar, Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates ahead of its worldwide premiere. Noah, which retells the story of the Great Flood from the Book of Genesis, was banned because it contradicts the teachings of Islam. The $125 million film stars Russell Crowe and Anthony Hopkins and is due to premiere in the United States on 28th of March. British rock band The Rolling Stones played a concert at the Shanghai Mercedes-Benz Arena as part of their 14 On Fire tour. The aging British rockers, including Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Charlie Watts and Ronnie Wood, performed on a stage in the shape of the band's ubiquitous tongue and lips logo, which extended out into the audience. Fox mogul Rupert Murdoch was inducted into the TV Hall of Fame in a ceremony held in Beverly Hills, California. Murdoch is the founder of Fox Broadcasting Corporation, which has produced Emmy-winning original programming like The Simpsons, The X-Files, Ally McBeal and Family Guy. He's a controversial figure for his right-wing leaning Fox News channel and for the involvement of his newspapers in the UK hacking scandals. The big winner at this year's BAFTA Games Awards was Naughty Dog's zombie survival horror, The Last of Us, which beat global phenomenon Grand Theft Auto 5. And indie hit Papers, Please to claim Best Game in 2014. At a lavish ceremony held at Tobacco Dock in London and hosted by Irish comic Dara O'Brien for the 6th year in a row, The Last of Us also picked up Best Action and Adventure, Best Story and Audio Achievement. That's all we have for you in this edition of World Panorama. See you next week, same time with more international news. Till then, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. This week, I end the show with snippets from Barack Obama's interview with Hangover star Zach Galifianakis. This was Obama administration's latest effort to increase youth participation in Obamacare, also known as the Affordable Health Care Act. Enjoy this, it's quite funny.
Hi, welcome to another edition of Between Two Ferns. I'm your host, Zach Galifianakis. And my guest today is Barack Obama, President Barack Obama. What is it like to be the last black president?
Seriously? What's it like for this to be the last time you ever talked to a president?
It must kind of stink, though, that you can't run, 3 times.
If I ran a third time, it'd be sort of like doing a third Hangover movie. It didn't really work out very well, did it?
You know what I would do if I were president, Mr. President? I would make same-sex divorce illegal, then see how bad they want it.
I think that's why you're not president. And that's a good thing. Have you heard of the Affordable Care Act?
Is this what they mean by drones?
The point is that a lot of young people, they think they're invincible.
Did you say invisible? Because
no,
I just think that's impossible.
Not invisible, invincible. Okay. Meaning that they don't think they can get hurt.
I'm just saying that nobody could be invisible if you had said invisible.
I understand that.